Hey everyone, it's Andy with the Wedding Biz. Well, it's actually been a bit since I recorded my pre-introduction for the last episode, and I'm feeling excited again from a creative perspective. It's like a roller coaster. I mean, I've been shooting and editing new promotional videos for a few of my bands, and it's been such a great process, and I forgot how much fun it is and how it's just such a great opportunity to work and flex my creative muscles. And if you want to check them out, start with the 3 for the band Sound Connection at kushnerentertainment.com, and you can see what I've been up to. So, if you missed last week's episode, it was with Nora Shields of Rock Paper Coin to talk about how to incorporate automation into your business. Great episode. And today's guest is Tyler Speier, a luxury event planner, designer, and florist with his company Tyler Speier Events, based out of Santa Barbara, California. He is also a well-respected expert in terms of how we, as wedding pros, can best utilize social media. Tyler also speaks across the country at both consumer events and B2B conferences, including Engage, WIPA, and The Knot. And his design and planning work has been featured in Martha Stewart Weddings, Bridal Guide Magazine, In Style, Destination I Do, Modern Luxury Weddings, and more. During this conversation, we give a particular focus to his advice with regards to social media. So enjoy this conversation with Tyler Speier. Hey, Tyler, Phil Van Nostrand, the wonderful photographer out of New York City, who was interviewed in episodes 109 and 260. Phil highly recommended that I have you on the show, so welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And, in addition to having a full-service destination event design and planning company, Phil mentioned that you also have a particular expertise with regard to how we as wedding pros can best utilize social media. And he mentioned that he heard you speak on it at a very popular breakout session at an Engage conference. And so I'm going to want to focus on that topic. But first, I'd like to know, what motivated you to create an event design and planning company to begin with?
Yeah, well, I think like most pros, it's a pretty long story, but to kind of put it in a nutshell, I've always been really creative. I love working with flowers. I love working with people. I grew up in a really huge family. And, when I was 18 years old, summer after I graduated high school, I had some friends who were graduating college and they were getting married and they had $1,000 and they wanted to do a dessert potluck wedding at a small church in Los Angeles. And they asked me to do it. And I said, yes.
But why do you think they asked you to do it though?
I think it's because, and I've always entertained with family and they had been friends of mine, had come to our house for different events. They knew I could do flowers. I had done flowers for like my church growing up and they knew I was really creative. And quite frankly, I think they just needed someone. And they asked me and I said yes. And at that wedding, I booked 2 more weddings and my company was born.
Wild.
Isn't that amazing? And so my freshman year of college at the age of 18, I did 14 weddings by word of mouth. And I was doing it to pay for school and never had any intention of doing this as my career. I went to school for accounting and, started a career and kind of did weddings on the side. And then just as time went on, my business started changing from sort of a side hobby to really a career, and made a really kind of difficult but brave decision to quit my full-time job and go into weddings full-time. After about being in business for 6 years. And it was one of the best decisions I've ever made.
And where in the country was this?
So I grew up in Santa Barbara, started my business in Santa Barbara, and we're still here in Santa Barbara, California.
It's interesting, Tyler. So many people I've interviewed on the show, planners and designers in particular, have a similar story where they almost fell into it, which is just so interesting to me. I mean, I was so intentional about it. I mean, I was working in the corporate world, and then I had started a band, and it took me like 8 years to really say to myself, or 6 years to say, okay, I want this to be full time. And then I had a 2-year plan. Like, it was very intentional, but yet I hear these stories. So I'm curious, what would you identify as some facets of your personal signature? Like what makes you and differentiates you in the industry, do you feel?
I think like from a practical standpoint, something that differentiates us is when we work with our clients, we do all planning, all design, and all florals. So we really are sort of a one-stop shop for planning, design, and florals. And that's really appealing to our clients. And not every planning and design company also does floral production. But I think deeper than that, I've really valued the relationships that I've built with clients over the years, and we have something really special. Our team is very joy-filled. We are authentic. We are honest, and we become really good friends with all of our clients. And I think that generates a really amazing referral process. Most of our clients walk away being like, wow, we want to stay in touch for life, and we're going to refer you to our friends. And that really has been kind of the benchmark of building this company.
Geez, what a joy. I mean, it just makes it more fun for you doing it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned earlier, I'm aware that you also speak to and consult for the wedding and events industry as to how we can best take advantage of social media platforms. And so I'm wondering, what are some of the main points to begin with that you make when speaking on that topic?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I believe that social media is an incredible marketing tool that we've been given. And something I like to tell event pros is I think often we think of social media as our marketing, but it's really important to remember that it's just one tool in our tool belt. It's a really amazing tool, but it is not a full strategy. That being said, social media provides such an incredible way for us to be able to lift the veil, so to speak, and authentically connect with our audience. Our potential clients, with people who might want to hire us, with people who will refer us. And social media allows them to hear our voice, allows them to hear our stories, allows them to see a little bit of our personalities, and really develop a connection long before the initial inquiry, email, web form, however it happens, is even sent. So that by time they're reaching out, they feel connected, versus reaching out just to get your pricing and information and reaching out to 30 other people to get that same information.
But how do you connect with them in that manner? It's social media. It's not speaking directly to you or anything. Like how do you pull that off through social media?
That is such a great question. I think I'm going to start answering that with kind of a story about my growth in social media. So,
okay.
Back when, Instagram was newer and I was kind of newer into being in this industry full time, I let fear hold me back. I did not want to put my face on social media. I think like all of us, I say this in all of my workshops, none of us really like the way our voice sounds recorded and playing back to us. Nobody loves that feeling. And I didn't like the way my voice sounded recorded. I didn't want my face to show. I felt like all I wanted to do was show my work, show the product that I was creating, these beautiful weddings, these beautiful couples. And we went and did that, and my business was fine. But there was a change where we were doing this one wedding and it was so difficult. Oh my gosh, everything was going wrong. Everything was really challenging, thing after thing. If you're in the industry, we've all had those events, right? Where you're just like, oh my gosh, now we're dealing with this. And there came a point where during that wedding, a windstorm came up and it blew the wedding arch off a cliff. This beautiful floral arch. We finished it. Granted, as a planner, I had already told the couple, there's a wind advisory. I don't think we should be setting up over here. I don't think we should be doing it. And they're like, no, we want to do it. Well, sure enough, our inventory blows down onto the beach. It's lost. And this is maybe 30 minutes before the ceremony. And our team was able to successfully move the chairs, move the things. Obviously, we couldn't reconstruct the arch, but we found this garden elsewhere on the property. We moved the ceremony. We made it all happen. And for the very first time, I picked up my phone later in the evening and I recorded a video looking at my face. And I said, hey guys, you will never guess what happened today and what we had to do to pull off this wedding. And that was my very first Insta story, showing my face and sharing a little bit of my heart. And it got such an incredible response. And I started doing that consistently. And now we've been doing that consistently for years, showing up, telling stories, being authentic, and really showing our community who we are. And that has changed my business forever.
Now, is this mostly through stories or also on the grid?
So mainly, I mean, obviously social media is shifting all the time and we're always throwing us curveballs. So at the time, mainly through stories. And then there are opportunities on the grid, especially now through Reels, to be able to connect. Through TikTok, we're able to connect through video. With Pinterest right now, we're doing video content. So kind of through the years, it has evolved how and where we show up and connect. But the key is owning who I am, being grounded in who I am, and being grounded in the fact that like I am an expert and I am worthy of sharing my opinions and my advice, and then sharing that with others and being really generous with that information. And it has really built an incredible community for us, which has in turn led to a really incredible client base.
I want to make sure that you're aware of two other shows that are on the Wedding Biz Network. First, The Business of Being Creative, hosted by founder and president of The Business of Being Creative, Sean Lowe. Sean's consulting firm is focused on providing practical advice to those in the business of being creative. Tune in every Tuesday to hear a new episode chock full of topics and advice for creative businesses. Also, check out the 2 seasons of Stop and Smell the Roses, hosted by the one and only lifestyle and event design expert, Preston Bailey. Preston speaks with such an honest voice. I know you're going to thoroughly enjoy hearing him on this unique platform. You can find both shows at theweddingbiznetwork.com or on your cell phone's podcast app for both The Business of Being Creative and Stop and Smell the Roses. You know, somewhere also, I'm not sure where I saw this, but you said that you have to know who you're speaking to, right? Speaking, I guess, to a client different than, how do you, can you say more about that?
Absolutely. So I think that a common pitfall of social media is, we hear different experts saying, oh, you should be authentic. Oh, you should be genuine. Oh, you should connect. That's the big word, right? Like we need to connect with our audience. And I think that boundary or like the boundaries around what we communicate can get blurred because I can connect with my best friend, right? And I can reach out and I can say, I am having the worst day, or I am really not liking my job today, or this client is being so difficult. And in the safety of that best friend relationship, I am able to be extremely vulnerable or say all of the things, the good, the bad, the ugly, and that is authentically me. It is also true that I can show up to a client meeting. We're not talking about social media right now, but I can show up to a client meeting and I can be dressed well and I can shake their hand and look them in the eye and have an authentic conversation, fully showing up as myself, but in an appropriate manner, right? I feel like most of us know, like when we show up to a client meeting, these are the things you say, and there are probably things you wouldn't share or wouldn't do like you would with a spouse or a best friend or whatever. And I think what's really important is social media. If you are using social for your business, when you are showing up on social, it's very similar to showing up to a client meeting or showing up or like having a client into your studio to take a tour. There are things you will share. There are things you will choose not to share. And that doesn't make you less authentic. But it does. It's just about knowing your audience. My favorite author in the world is Brené Brown. And she gives the analogy of like building trust is kind of like having a jar of marbles. And every time someone does something that is honest and trustworthy and true, you put a marble in the jar. And over time, we have people in our lives that have these really full jars of marbles. And those are the people that we can say anything to. And we know that they're going to meet us with love and respect. And we have that trust there to prove it. Our social media followers, while amazing and can build a community, probably just have like 1 or 2 marbles in the jar. So that's going to, as we build trust with people and with only a couple marbles, that's then going to infer what maybe you should share or shouldn't share. And I think it's really important because I've seen business owners probably share a little bit too much, and that can cause a divide with your audience. And I personally never show up on my Instagram like in my pajamas with messy hair and, because that's not how I'd show up for a client. And that's not me being inauthentic. That's me choosing how to show up in an appropriate way.
Yeah. also, in terms of the different platforms, like Instagram seems to be saturated at this point. How do you feel about TikTok?
I I love TikTok.
Like in terms of for us in the wedding industry.
Yeah, I think that TikTok is an incredible platform. I think that, I'll be honest, when it first came out, I was like, are you serious? Like another platform?
Right.
And then it was like, you have to make videos. Like that is so exhausting, and editing them. And my attitude towards TikTok was not great when it first came out. But we were in the pandemic here in California. Like we weren't having events at all for over a year. And so it was kind of this time that I ended up having. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to try it. And we put out a few videos here and there, and I was just really disappointed with the results. And then I had my first TikTok go viral, and my following on TikTok is now significantly larger than Instagram. And, what I found with TikTok is it's a space to be able to share. It's a space to be able to be a little bit more raw, a little bit less curated. Like on Instagram, where I feel like there's sort of this just precedent that it's a much more curated feed. TikTok, you can be a little bit more, bring in some humor and show a little bit more of like that side of yourself. And it's really fostered some amazing connections. And we have booked luxury weddings from TikTok.
Well, what was it about that one that went viral? Why do you think it went viral? Can you describe that particular video?
Absolutely. So funny story. It was a video of me making a floral installation in my living room over my fireplace. It was for a project that was supposed to go live in 2020, and then the whole world shut down and that project sort of disappeared, which was a really hard career moment for me. But I had made this video and I was like able to share it because the project had been canceled. And I shared it on TikTok, and it was just, again, me doing flowers in my living room. And I posted it, and for the first 12 hours, I looked at it again, and it had barely gotten any views. And I was like, TikTok is so dumb. Like I put all this work into these videos, no one's looking at it. And over on Instagram, people respond. And I was going to delete that video. And that, one of my kids, this was the evening, had a nightmare, and I put my phone away and I went in, to help them. And the next day I didn't look at my TikTok at all. And I actually got a text from my sister-in-law being like, you're blowing up on TikTok. And I kind of laughed and just ignored it. And then that night I went onto my Instagram and noticed I had thousands of new followers. And I was like, this has to be a glitch. I went onto TikTok and the video had over 1 million views. And now it's had over 1 million views. And now it's at over 8 million for that particular video. And again, it's just me doing flowers. And that opened a door. I was like, wow, all of a sudden we had a following and people wanted to see us creating. And we've had multiple videos now go viral on TikTok, giving advice on how to dress at a wedding, showing behind the scenes for florals and installations and how we make things happen. And it's really been a beautiful platform to be able to, show people who we are.
Do you think that wedding pros, generally speaking, are taking enough advantage of TikTok, of using that platform?
I think that in general, yes, I am seeing a lot of wedding pros on TikTok and really using the platform. I'm also seeing a lot of pros really using Reels, which obviously is similar, but not the same to TikTok. I think it's really important. So to answer your question, yes, there's always room for growth. And I also think it's really important that, the primary purpose of any of our businesses is providing the service that we provide to clients. And if creating video content is getting in the way of providing that service or becoming a huge time suck without a huge return, then it may not be, putting a video on TikTok every day may not be the right fit for a company.
Yeah. Well, at the time of this recording, and it's about a month before I'm going to release it, the app, the new platform Threads, just recently got launched.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it hasn't been very long, but what I'm imagining you've probably dived into it. What can you tell us about it from a wedding pro perspective?
Threads is a really exciting new platform. And like any other social platform, we'll see if it kind of tapers out. We'll see if it's here to stay. But I think that we have a unique opportunity as professionals to hop onto any new platform to use our voice and to see if we can get a following, be an early adopter on the program and see what happens. That's what happened with me for TikTok, is I was one of the early, if not one of the first wedding pros to even be on there. And by doing that, we went viral and got followers, and TikTok started paying us to make content. It was amazing. And so my thought on Threads is, yes, I'm absolutely on it. I've been kind of playing around with it, and it's, it's still super new, and we'll kind of see what happens, and kind of having a sense of humor with it and grace for myself, not trying to make it perfect, but just trying to use it and get to know it and see what happens, and we'll see what happens with it.
So is there anything else you'd like to say with regard to how best to utilize social media, as a wedding pro and event pro? Is there anything else that I've missed that you want to touch on?
I just think in general, like when I'm working with a pro or coaching or speaking, I love to encourage my fellow wedding pros. You are experts at what you do. And we all do have amazing advice, and we have a wealth of knowledge, and our audiences want to hear it. I think the biggest thing when I'm talking to fellow pros and they feel hung up on social media is they're like, I just don't know what to post, or I feel like what do I even have to say? And how am I going to record video content? Sure, I can share my events, but what about my face and talking? What do I even have to share? And I like to encourage fellow pros to think about what you're telling your clients, in meetings, the advice you're already giving and already doing and the resources you already have, because that is what you've built your business on. And that's what you can share on social media, in little snippets of advice on how to book a wedding band, advice on what to ask your photographer, advice on, your guest list, whatever it is, whatever your niche, whatever your area of expertise is, you have a voice and you have something to offer, and people want to hear it.
Yeah. All right. And before we go, can you tell me about the education that you offer for industry pros and how to reach you?
Absolutely. So the best way to reach us is through our website. We have an inquiry form. We also have a way you can drop in your email to learn about education. If you are a florist, we have an online floral design course. If you are a photographer, we have a short course on working with a luxury wedding planner. And then also we offer in-person workshops here in Santa Barbara and all over for florals, design, wedding planning, and et cetera. And so the best way to kind of stay up to date on those things is to drop your email into our website, tylerspeier.com. And we send those out. And we also share them through social media.
Great. Well, Tyler, thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. I think that this is, very valuable information that we should all be aware of and consider if we're not already. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Tyler Speier. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to tell a friend or two, and also follow us on Instagram at The Wedding Biz. You can find Tyler at tylerspeier.com. That's Tyler, Speier.com. You can also find him on Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest at Tyler Speier. And be sure to check out the show notes in your cell phone's podcast app or at our website of theweddingbiz.com. And next week's guest is going to be a revisit of my original interview with a super popular photographer out of France, Greg Fink. And finally, be sure to subscribe to The Wedding Biz so you know when new episodes drop. And it would be really wonderful if you could rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts from. That really helps the show. And finally, I also want to mention that I love getting DMs from you all on Instagram. So feel free to DM me. I will definitely get back to you. And we'll catch you next week on The Wedding Biz.